You know, if we had to pick one word that could describe this entire Trump administration over these first 100 days or so, it would definitely have to be chaos, right? Donald Trump was handed an economy that was an envy of the world. We had good GDP growth, we had good wage growth, we had good unemployment numbers, and I'm not saying that everything was perfect, but by most economic indicators that we normally use, things were looking pretty damn good. And then Donald Trump came into office and decided to pump a whole bunch of uncertainty into our markets, and now it looks like he could single-handedly drive us into a recession, all because he has a weird infatuation and a misunderstanding of these things called tariffs. And because he has been so erratic, because he went on again, off again, on again, off again, pause, we haven't even started to feel the pain that these tariffs are going to bring. But we are now starting to see some indicators that this pain is going to be here soon. And I specifically want to take a look at how shipments coming into our ports are seeing a precipitous decrease that is going to start showing up in the grocery stores, in your box stores, whatever it may be. The pain is going to be here soon. So let's go ahead and take a look at this clip from the executive director of the Port of Los Angeles, and he describes the type of decrease in shipments that they are bracing for. If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
And that's where we find ourselves today. Beginning next week, Jake, our business at the Port of Los Angeles on the import side will be down 35% year over year. Major American importers have said, I'm not buying anymore with these elevated tariff levels. Let's wait and see whether it's 2 hours, 2 weeks, or 2 months with this whipsaw effect of information coming out. I'm going to take a look at what policies can change and what talks will help alleviate this. And what we're seeing also is that on the flip side, with the retaliatory tariffs, our agriculture products are getting walloped. Central Valley of California, Red River Valley area of North Dakota, we're not able to sell those ag products. In fact, Brazil sold more soybeans in the month of March to China than ever in their history.
Yeah, this is not good, and this is what everybody was warning about before Donald Trump decided to go through with these tariffs. If you have a president who is going to come into office and one day he says, 145% tariffs, and the next day he says 10% tariffs, and then the next day he says, we're going to pause the tariffs for 90 days. Of course, businesses are going to stop what they're doing and wait for clarity. And that is exactly what we are starting to see at the Port of Los Angeles. And I think this is probably the biggest port in our country. If not the biggest, it's up there in the top 3 for sure. But like I said, Donald Trump is solely responsible for what we are seeing here. He put 145% tariffs on China when he paused most tariffs for everybody else, and now we are starting to see shipments decline in one of our biggest ports in the country. And that's not the only place it's happening. Here is the director of the Seattle port talking about what he is currently seeing.
Over my shoulder here, I'm looking out at the Port of Seattle right now, and we currently have no container ships at berth. And that happens every once in a while in normal times, but it is pretty rare. And so to see it tonight is, I think, a stark reminder that the impacts of the tariffs have real implications. It means that we don't have longshore workers on the dock right now unloading merchandise. We don't have trains taking that merchandise to inland ports and all the way across the country to places like Des Moines, Iowa, and Chicago, Illinois. And that's hundreds of jobs right here in our region and across the country.
You have none at your port right now?
We currently do not have any container ships at port right now. That's correct.
And that's because just nothing is being shipped over? I mean, that's pretty remarkable.
Well, it is. It's pretty unusual.
That is insane. We're not going through a pandemic. You might expect to see empty ports when you've got COVID-19 that is ravaging the world, but we're not going through anything like that. This is a self-inflicted wound brought on by an idiot president. This would have been avoidable. It was avoidable. But because Donald Trump has no understanding of how trade relationships work, because he doesn't have any understanding of what a trade deficit is, because he doesn't understand any of this, he decided he was going to go through with these tariffs, even though everybody around him, maybe besides Peter Navarro and Lutnick, everybody was telling him that this was going to be devastating to our economy, but he plowed forward with it anyway. This guy is an absolute idiot. And this guy said something very important here. This isn't just about products coming to the shelves. We're talking about people who unload containers, who drive containers across country to get products to stores. This is going to have downstream effects that is going to be felt throughout the economy. And I kind of wanted to touch on that here about the different effects that we are going to start seeing for workers or people who are tied into this industry.
We're at a crucial time right now. We're the largest container port in the Western Hemisphere, 25 years running, a leading indicator of this great U.S. economy. And what we're seeing now is that dock workers, truckers, warehouse folks will be having less job opportunities beginning next week. If you're a trucker today, hauling 4 and 5 containers, beginning next week, you'll likely be just moving 2 or 3. Dock workers who've been getting overtime, working double shifts, will likely work less than a full work week. This will hit our local and regional economy immediately.
Yeah, this is going to be devastating, especially for these communities who are tied into all of these shipping lanes, into the trucking, whatever it may be. We're going to see just a whole bunch of downstream effects that is going to be felt everywhere. Just think about what this means. You got longshoremen who are there unloading containers. If their work week is bumped down to 3, maybe 4 days instead of the full 5 days or whatever their reduced workload looks like, they don't have that extra money to go pump into the economy. So that means local businesses in their area, they start to feel it because there's not as much money running through the economy. You're talking about different truckers and how they're not going to be spending money because they have reduced work. We could see layoffs in these industries. This is going to be devastating for a whole wide array of workers throughout the country. And there are just so many, I don't know what you would call them, like auxiliary industries that, you know, are kind of propped up by our shipping industry, like the small businesses that rely on truckers to come through or things like that. It's all idiotic. It is all so stupid. This could have been avoided. But because Donald Trump is such a goddamn moron, he is going to be hurting the American people for nothing at all. This isn't going to benefit the American people like he kept on claiming before the election. This is just going to have a whole bunch of negative impacts for not only the American consumer, but the American worker who relies on all of this cargo coming into our country so they have a job. And it's not going to just be the people working in these industries. We as consumers are also going to start to feel this.
When will American consumers start to feel the direct impacts of these tariffs beyond the effect on the stock market, of course? And what will those impacts look like? Are we talking prices shooting up 50%? Are we talking empty shelves? What should we prepare for ourselves for?
Jake, retailers are telling me that they've got about 4 to 6 weeks of normal inventory levels remaining. And that's with the big guys who brought a lot of extra product in to pad those and bring the cost down. So 4 to 6 weeks left. Then after that, if no trade accord or framework is reached, you'll likely see spot shortages. And for those products in demand, the prices will go up. If you're looking for that blue shirt, and it's not the right size or the right style that you want, but you've got 11 purple ones, that blue shirt's price is going to be elevated just based on quantity that's available.
Yeah, it's pretty simple to understand, right? This is basic supply and demand. If you take away a third of the products from the market, then the other products that are in that same category are going to get more expensive because there's going to be as many people chasing fewer goods. Right? This is a recipe for inflation. This is a recipe for higher prices. This is a recipe for families not being able to afford as much because prices are raising up all around them. We're not just talking about, we're talking about pretty much products in all categories, right? We're going to feel this on nearly every single item at the store because not only are we buying products from other countries, but even small or medium-sized businesses, they import goods to build their product and turn around and sell that product. So we've already seen small businesses starting to shut down. We've seen small businesses not being able to afford the tariffs, which means they can't get the products that they need out of China to bring over here. I mean, guys, this was all avoidable. I just don't understand how anybody can look at Donald Trump and think that he is some genius businessman. I mean, this is so stupid. It's just, again, we've talked about tariffs so much on this channel. Tariffs can be used in a strategic way, but that is not what Donald Trump did. He put across the board tariffs. He did 145% on China, one of our largest trading partners, and now it is the American people who are going to get hurt. And just to give you a better sense of how many products are going to be affected, here is the executive director from the Port of LA once again discussing that.
Wherever you're watching or listening to this broadcast right now, likely you're looking or wearing at something that was brought in from overseas. 90% of trade moves on water, 45% of our business here at the Port of Los Angeles is with China, whether it be furniture, electronics, appliances, clothing, and footwear. The American consumer will be affected with less choice here in the weeks ahead on store shelves and online buying platforms, and likely prices will rise. These tariffs will be passed on in cost structure to the American consumer.
And this is what everybody was warning Donald Trump about before he decided that he just needed to go through with these tariffs. Everybody said that this was going to raise prices for the American people, and that is exactly what is going to happen. Like we just talked about, if you have less products and you've got the same amount of people chasing those goods, the prices for those goods are going to go up. And then if you even have stuff that is manufactured right here in the United States, those companies are going to look around and say, "Oh, I can charge that for my products too," and they start raising their prices as well. That's how capitalism works, baby. Those are free markets. It's just going to be devastating for American families. And we know we have Donald Trump out there saying, "Oh, well, you don't need $30. You only need $2." Just imagine how disgusting that actually is. You've got a president of the United States who is enriching himself in a whole bunch of different ways, becoming wealthier and wealthier and wealthier, while he's telling the rest of the American people to buckle up and, do it for your country. Here comes the pain. You need to tighten your, what is the term? You need to tighten your belt and be ready for some economic pain. That's what Donald Trump is pretty much telling. And when he was asked about this shortage in shipments, here's what Donald Trump had to say.
Because business has slowed down, as you mentioned, we're seeing as a result, the ports here in the U.S., the traffic has really slowed, and now thousands of dock workers and truck drivers are worried about their jobs.
That means we lose less money, When I see that means we lose less money. Look, China was making over $1 trillion, 1.1 trillion, in my opinion. Different numbers from 500 billion to $1 trillion or $1 trillion. I think it was 1.1 trillion. And frankly, if we didn't do business, we would have been better off. Okay, you understand that. So when you say it slowed down, that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
What in the fuck is this idiot talking about? He's the ports. We're seeing a reduction in cargo. We're seeing a reduced amount of shipments. Oh, well, that's a good thing because then we're not wasting any money. How does he think these things work? Donald Trump literally thinks that we are just handing money over to places like China and then getting absolutely nothing in return. That is the type of stupidity that we are dealing with. He thinks that, because we don't have as many shipments coming in, that must be good because we're not spending the money on those shipments. What he fails to realize is that when we buy things from China, we actually get products that we wanted in return. How stupid can this commander-in-chief be? Oh my goodness. So here, this is just where we are now, guys. Like I said, we're probably a few weeks out before we start experiencing this stuff in your local stores. We're going to see workers all across the country. They're going to be impacted by this, and especially the people who are working at the docks, truckers and things like that. Those guys are going to be heavily impacted. We could start to see layoffs if we have a 35 to 45% reduction in the amount of goods that we are shipping in. So We all just need to be aware of what is coming. We all need to make sure that Donald Trump has all of the blame for this, and we need to make sure that he is punished in these upcoming midterms. The whole Republican Party needs to be punished for this electorally. They decided that they wanted to allow Donald Trump to have this unilateral power to implement tariffs. They abdicated their responsibility. They're not looking out for their constituents. They had the opportunity to take this tariff power back, and they all just rolled over and let Donald Trump do what Donald Trump wanted to do. So each and every one of these Republicans need to be punished at the ballot box. Everybody, please remember that. We have to vote up and down the ticket for Democrats because they are the only adults in the room who can actually manage an economy like our economy. So I will keep an eye on it, guys. We will keep an eye on it, but I will leave it there for now. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share it with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against the right-wing media ecosystem that just shovels shit for Donald Trump every single day. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to hit that subscribe button. It is free. And if you guys want to see how Donald Trump is becoming more and more unpopular as these tariffs kind of take hold, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.